I am not teaching, I am publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for Life in UK test part 365. Taxation part 2. While doing lunch training, and if you participate in the lunch training, that is at your own risk. So we were talking about tax, and that was why not doing something about what the country is doing with the tax. They said a bit about police and so on, and the armed forces. Maybe they said something, but let's look what it actually is. It's important. How public spending was calculated in your tax summary 2024 updated. gov.uk/government /publication/how minus public minus spending minus was minus calculated minus in minus your minus tax minus summary / how minus public minus spending minus was minus calculated minus in minus your minus tax minus summary. That address. So we're talking about it. The overview. Are we going to read that? Let's just read it through. In the annual tax summary, the government makes available a clear and simple summary of how much income tax and national insurance individuals paid in the last financial year and how these payments were used in its spending. Since 2020, the annual tax summary has been accessible online through the gov.uk annual tax summary page or your personal tax account. In general, these are no longer printed and mailed to taxpayers, although customers can request a paper copy of the annual tax summary from HM Revenue and Customs. Government spending can be broken down and understood in different ways. This guide outlines how the public spending breakdown was calculated and shown in the tax summary and provides some general context on spending and tax. You can also find out more about tax and spending from the statistics published by the official Office for National Statistics (ONS) at the link below. According to the ONS statistics published in November 2024 and 23-24, the government received a total of 282 billion in income taxes and 181 billion in national insurance contributions. So 280 tax and 180 national insurance in billion did the country make or receive. They don't get it for themselves, so the country is not a person. These taxes made up around 39% of the 1,000 billion total current receipts in 2023. Where do the other 600 billion come from? So the country made 1 billion. And spending, known as the total managed expenditure in 23-24, was 1 billion and 200 million. The difference between these two numbers is public sector net borrowing, excluding public sector banks, commonly known as the deficit. This was 125 billion. So the country made 125 billion minus. Indirect taxes such as VAT have not been included in the summary because HMRC do not hold data on individual consumer spendings, which would be required to show the total amount of VAT that an individual has paid in a year. So 280 billion through tax, 180 billion through national insurance, and the country totally made 1 trillion, would it be, 1,000 billions. These taxes made up around 39% of the 1,000 billion total current receipts in 23-24. How public spending was calculated in your annual tax summary. I want to read it all. He has not a single number in it, so. Okay. The illustrative breakdown of how your payment of income tax and national insurance contributions is spent in your tax summary is largely based on official statistics published by the government and the Public Expenditure Statistical Analysis. PISA is the annual publication of information on public government spending. PISA for 23-24 can be found at the link below. PISA provides a range of information about public spending, largely based around two frameworks. Budgeting, which provides information about central government, departmental budget, which are the aggregates the government uses to plan and control expenditure, and expenditure on services, which is based on national accounts definitions and covers spending by the whole of the public sector. The tax summaries are based on the expenditure on service frameworks, as it has a wider coverage and is more stable over time. The total expenditure on services figure is normally lower than total managed expenditure mentioned in the first section because of difficulty in attributing some types of spending for an appropriate function. One of the main differences is that it doesn't include depreciation or reverse certain VAT refunds. More detail on spending framework can be seen in Annex E of the above PISA link. Within expenditure on services, there are different ways to show spending by the public sector. For the tax summaries, the government chose to use spending analysis and I don't know how to pronounce it. Analysis based on function and analyzes based on function shows how the government spends money on a particular cross-cutting purpose or area and gives a truer picture of what is spent on a given area when it's divided by departmental expenditure. In PISA, the different functional areas of spend are defined using the United Nations classification of the functions of government. UNCOFOG. This shows public spending against 10 functions, which is then further divided into more detailed sub-functions. The information about UNCOFOG can be found online here. How public spending is described in your annual tax summary. Okay. Public spending in the annual tax summary is based on table 5.2 in PISA, which, as described above, provides a functional analysis of public spending by the UK government in the financial year 23-24. You can find the full tablet at the following link. Where possible, the tax summary uses the same headings as PISA does, such as for defense or health. However, initial testing with taxpayer indicates that the summaries would be more useful if the data were presented using accessible and easily understood labels. Some PISA categories are broadly defined and contain significant areas of expenditure that are often considered as discrete from one another, and so it has been necessary, in some instances, to break down the data into segments that are more easily accessible for taxpayers. For instance, state pensions are a significant area of social protection, so they have been shown as a separate category. As the data for state pensions is not published separately in PISA 2023-24, the state pension number is taken from the Office for Budget Responsibilities Economic and Fiscal Outlook March 24, Table 47, found within the detailed forecast tables expenditure link. The remainder of social protection has also been renamed welfare, in line with the consideration that term should be accessible and easily understood by taxpayers. The social protection category follows UN statistic guidance as outlined above, and therefore includes spending on items such as unemployment benefit, tax credits, public sector pensions and various benefits support, covering categories such as old age, sickness and disability, housing, family, children and personal social services. Further changes and the associated amount published in PISA can be seen in the table below. These were again made in line with the consideration that terms should be accessible and easily understood by taxpayers. Now we're having the easily understandable list. So, PISA public expenditure data for 23-24 tax summary headings. Tax summary description. The first one is welfare. And the description is also social protection excluding state pensions. So we're having no welfare, but it's not included state pensions. And the expenditure was 240 billion, that is 20% of what the country did. So 20% were for welfare, but that excludes the state pensions. Then additional 20% were for health, and then now 10% were the state pensions. It's quite good to calculate. 10% is 100 billion. The country spent 1,000 billion. So 10% is 100 billion. Okay. And then we're having national debt interest within general public services, but shown in more detail in 5.2. So national debt interest, 11%. As that what the country has to pay because they had to borrow 100 billion. National debt interest, and then education, another 10%. So now we're through with all the 10%ers. So 20% is social protection, welfare, 20% health, and 10% pensions. So 50% is for that. And then another percent is national debt, and 10% education. So they're having 70% of what the country has spent has nothing to do with roads, police, military, or anything ever named. It is social protection, health, pension, national debt, and education. Then we're having defense, so the military, 5%. Then we're having the police, public order and safety, another 5%. So 10% is necessary just because we can't live peacefully together in the world. Okay, 10% for that. And then we're having transport, 5%. So economic affairs without business and industry, but shown in more detail. Then we're having business, economic affairs without transport, 4%. Government administration captured into general 2%, housing and utilities, streetlights, 2%, environment, 1.5%, culture, 1%. That is why the book is so short. And age of consent or taxation is not included. Overseas aid, 0.7%. So not even 1% is overseas aid. Outstanding payment to the EU, 0.5%. But here's footnote. Prior to the UK's withdrawal from the EU, this heading was formerly known as UK contributions to EU budget. So it was 0.5% in 23-24. Outstanding, so 0.5%. We're going to do that in the next part. We don't have time for lunch today. Again, in more detail. It's 20% welfare, 20% health, 10% pensions. So the first 50% are healthcare, basically, including welfare and pensions. And then we're having 10% national debt, and then education 10%. Then the military and the police together 10%. Then we're going to read that again. Some forms of transport and business 10%. Something else, then housing 2%, the environment 1.5%, culture 1%, and overseas 0.5%, aid to the overseas 0.5%, and outstanding payments for the European Union 0.5%. We will do it in detail again. Now we're going to do a fast launch training. Fast and intense, and if you participate in it, that is at your own risk. We're going to love breathing in and out. Again in and out. Again in and out. And breathe in and close the legs and out. Now the 6-back squat squeeze. We are in quarter squat and we're pressing with the hand against the upper part of the leg. And on the other side. And now we're going to go into half squat and we're doing it at the half leg. And on the other side, it's the half of the leg. Then we're going down into 3/4 squat and we're pressing close to the knee. And on the other side, we're going to do it without breaks so we can do the exercise shorter. Now, the fast G of water pond. Be down in 3/4 squat, press against the knee, and go towards the knee. And direct over to the propeller full squat. We're going to the side, looking up to the arm, and press against the knee. Arm right to the middle, to the other side, press against the knee, look up to the head. Into the middle and up. Next thing, 90-90 lunge and press against the knee. Over to the other side and press against the knee and be taller with the back. All these exercises now. Over to the other side, 90-135 lunge, taller with the back, pull at the leg. Over to the other side, taller with the back, pull at the leg. 90-150 lunge, taller with the back, pull at the top of a shin bone. Over to the other side, pull at the top of a shin bone. And full lunge, pull at the top of a shin bone, taller with the back. Over to the other side, pull again at the top of a shin bone, taller with the back. And pause it. One leg with the heel onto the ground, and we're pulling a little bit up. The other one with the heel onto the ground, we're pulling a little bit up. Legs together, we're breathing in, lifting the arms up. We're breathing out and coming back. Again in. And out again, back, open the chest, breathe out. Again in. And out. And down. Turn the heel of the right leg to the right and go body to the right. Bend the left knee. Turn the toes of the right leg to the right and go with the body to the left. And both legs together. Bend the right leg. Bring the heel of the left leg to the left and turn with the body to the left. Bring the toes of the left leg to the left and turn with the body to the right. And both legs again together. Moving it and in and coming up. Moving the hands and breathing out. Well, fast and intense, we have a minute left. Thank you very much.